On April 8, 1968, a British aircraft lifted off from London Heathrow, just like thousands of flights before it. Passengers settled into their seats, unaware that death was already waiting in the sky. Within minutes, fire erupted from the wing, and one brave soul would make a decision that changed everything. This is an ultimate sacrifice. The heartbreaking true story of BOAC Flight 712. BOAC Flight 712 was a Boeing 707 scheduled to travel from London to Sydney, with stopovers along the route. On board were 127 people, families, businessmen, and a young, dedicated cabin crew. The weather that day was calm. The aircraft accelerated down the runway and lifted smoothly into the sky. For a few moments, everything felt normal. Seatbelt signs were still on. Engines roared steadily. But 2 minutes after takeoff, something went terribly wrong. Dark smoke began rising from the left wing, unnoticed by most passengers inside. The flight that was supposed to last hours was now counting its time in minutes. Suddenly, the calm inside the aircraft shattered. A fuel pipe ruptured, spilling fuel directly onto the hot engine. Within seconds, the left wing burst into flames. From the ground, airport staff watched in horror as fire trailed behind the aircraft. Inside the cockpit, warning lights flashed. The pilots knew this wasn't a minor issue. They immediately declared a mayday and began turning back toward Heathrow. But the fire was spreading fast, eating into the wing. Passengers started to sense danger. The smell of smoke filled the cabin. Fear replaced silence. The aircraft was losing time. Every second in the air meant the fire grew stronger, and the crew realized this landing would decide who lived and who didn't. As the aircraft prepared for an emergency landing, panic began spreading through the cabin. Smoke thickened. The heat became unbearable near the wing. But the cabin crew did not panic. They moved through the aisle, speaking calmly, helping passengers stay focused. Emergency doors were prepared. Instructions were repeated again and again. One young stewardess, Barbara Jane Harrison, stood out. She could see flames just outside the aircraft, yet she stayed. As the plane hit the runway, evacuation began immediately. Passengers jumped onto the wings, running from the fire. Barbara didn't escape. She went back into the burning cabin, guiding people towards safety. Her clothes caught fire. Her skin burned. Still, she kept helping. Because for her, saving others mattered more than saving herself. Flames surrounded the aircraft. Fuel continued to leak onto the wing, turning the fire into an unstoppable inferno. Barbara Jane Harrison was still inside, burning, exhausted, barely able to stand. Witnesses later said she was seen helping one last passenger toward the exit, before collapsing near the wing. Moments later, the unthinkable happened. The fuel tanks exploded. A massive fireball ripped through the aircraft, destroying much of it instantly. The heat was so intense that rescue crews were forced back. Out of 127 people on board, 5 lost their lives. Barbara Harrison was one of them. She didn't die because she had no escape. She died because she refused to abandon others. Her bravery turned a disaster into a story of heroism. BOAC Flight 712 was in the air for less than 16 minutes, but its impact would last forever. Investigations later confirmed that a fuel pipe failure caused the deadly fire. The tragedy led to major safety improvements in aircraft fuel systems. But the world didn't just remember the accident. It remembered Barbara Jane Harrison. She was posthumously awarded the George Cross, the highest civilian honor for bravery in the United Kingdom. She became a symbol of selflessness, a reminder that even in moments of terror, true heroes choose others over themselves. BOAC Flight 712 wasn't just a disaster. It was a story of ultimate sacrifice. Some flights are remembered for how they crashed. Others are remembered for who stood up when it mattered most. BOAC Flight 712 reminds us that courage doesn't always wear a uniform of power. Sometimes it wears a cabin crew badge and a burning smile of duty. Barbara Jane Harrison didn't survive that day, but because of her, many others did. If you believe real heroes should never be forgotten, Subscribe to Dark Reality for more true stories of courage, sacrifice, and untold aviation tragedies.